Good evening. Welcome back to Sleepy Expeditions. Tonight we are going back 2,500 years to a narrow pass between the mountains and the sea in central Greece, where a small force of soldiers has taken a position that most people, looking at the numbers, would consider impossible to hold. It is the night of August 17th, 4880 BC. You are a Spartan warrior, and tomorrow everything will be decided. Find a comfortable position. Let your body settle. The ground beneath you tonight is not soft. It is the hard earth of a military camp, and you have slept on harder. You are used to this. You have been used to this since you were 7 years old. Close your eyes. The stars are very bright tonight. The camp is quiet, not the quiet of sleep. Though some of the men are sleeping, you can hear the slow breathing of the warrior lying 2 feet to your left, a man from your Insomnia whose name you have known since childhood, whose face you could draw from memory, whose fighting style you know as well as your own. He sleeps the way Spartans do everything, completely, without waste, his body taking what it needs and nothing more. Around you the other fires are burning low. 300 Spartans, plus several thousand allies from the other Greek city-states, Thespians, Thebans, Phocians, spread across the narrow strip of land between the cliffs and the sea. From above, the camp would look small, impossibly small, against the scale of what waits on the other side of the pass. You are not thinking about that. You are lying on your back on the ground, your shield resting against the rock beside you, your spear within reach. The ground is warm from the day's heat, and the night air coming off the sea carries the smell of salt and the distant smell of the Persian fires, which burn on the far side of the pass in numbers that make the darkness in that direction glow faintly, as if the horizon itself is lit from below. 10,000 men, perhaps more. The estimates vary, and Spartans do not spend much time counting enemies. The number is what it is, and what it is does not change what must be done. The Aegean is visible to your right, dark and flat, its surface barely moving in the still night air. The mountains rise to your left, close enough that you can hear the occasional movement of something in the scrub above, a goat probably, or a fox, going about the ancient business of survival in the hills that have been here since before any of this mattered to anyone. The pass of Thermopylae, the hot gates it is called, for the sulphur springs that give the area its particular smell, a faint trace of something mineral and warm beneath the salt air, not unpleasant once you are used to it. You have been here for 2 days now, long enough to have stopped noticing it, long enough to have walked the width of the pass and understood, with a soldier's eye, exactly what makes it defensible. At its narrowest point, the pass is perhaps 15 meters wide. 15 meters between the cliff face and the sea. 300 Spartans, shoulder to shoulder in their phalanx, can hold 15 meters. That is why you are here. You stare at the stars overhead, and you think about nothing in particular, which is a skill that the Agoge teaches you alongside everything else, the ability to be still inside your own mind, to rest in the present moment without anticipating the future or mourning the past. The Persians will come when they come. The battle will be what it will be. Tonight is tonight. The fire crackles softly. The sea moves. A man somewhere in the camp coughs once and is quiet. You breathe slowly, in and out, and the stars turn overhead, and the night passes. You walked the pass this morning, before the heat of the day settled in, with 3 other men from your unit. Not for reconnaissance, you have already done that. The pass has been studied and understood, and its tactical possibilities exhausted in the planning that brought you here. You walked it because walking ground you are going to fight on is a practice as old as warfare itself. A way of making abstract tactical knowledge into something physical, something your body knows rather than just your mind. The pass is a long, narrow corridor between the mountain of Calidromos to the south and the waters of the Malian Gulf to the north. For most of its length it is wide enough to be useless for your purposes, wide enough for the Persian cavalry to operate, wide enough for their superior numbers to be brought to bear. But at the western and eastern ends, the mountains push almost to the water, squeezing the corridor to its minimum width. Those narrow points are everything. At the western gate where you will make your stand, the pass is flanked by a wall, the Phocian Wall, built by the local population years ago against some earlier threat, now repaired and manned by the allied forces under your king's command. The wall is not impressive by any standard of military engineering. It is stone roughly built, not high, but in this terrain it does not need to be impressive. It needs only to channel the attackers into the narrow space where their numbers cannot save them. The Persians have more men than any army you have ever heard of, but they cannot all attack at once. In the past, they can bring perhaps 20 or 30 men across the front at any given moment, and 20 or 30 men, however brave, however skilled, are not going to move a Spartan phalanx. The phalanx is the thing. You have been part of it since you were 18 years old. The first time you stood in the line as a full warrior rather than a trainee, and felt the press of the man beside you and the weight of his shield overlapping yours, and understood, in your body rather than your head, what it means to be part of something larger than yourself. A phalanx is not a collection of individual fighters. It is a single organism. Each man's shield protects not himself, but the man to his left. Each man's spear reaches past his own shield into the space in front of the man to his right. The organism moves as one, breathes as one, pushes as one, and the sum of it is something that no individual warrior, however skilled, can match. Sparta's phalanx is the finest in Greece. Not because Spartans are physically superior to other Greeks. Other cities produce men who are equally strong, equally fast, equally capable of the individual acts of combat that make up the chaotic reality of a battle. Sparta's advantage is different. It is the Agoge. It is the fact that every man in this phalanx has been training for this moment since he was 7 years old. Not just training physically, training to trust. Training to hold his position when every instinct in his body is screaming to step back. Training to keep the line when the man in front of him falls and the weight of the push increases. training to be, in the chaos of battle, the one thing that panic and confusion and the fear of death cannot move. A stone in a wall. You lie in the dark and you feel the ground beneath you, and you think about the pass and the wall and the men sleeping around you, and you are not afraid. Fear requires uncertainty, and you have none. What will happen tomorrow is exactly what you trained for. You will stand in the line. You will hold your position. You will do what Spartans do. Whatever comes after that is in the hands of the gods. You were 7 years old when they took you from your mother's house. This is the way of Sparta. At 7, the boys leave their families and enter the Agoge, the state education system that will occupy the next 13 years of their lives, and produce at the end of it either a Spartan warrior or nothing at all. You remember the morning, the particular quality of the light, early summer, the cicadas already loud in the olive trees outside your house, your mother's face which showed nothing, because that is what Sparta asks of its mothers, that they show nothing, that they send their sons away with the same composure they would want those sons to show on a battlefield. She gave you a piece of bread and told you to come back with your shield or on it. You did not understand what she meant then. You do now. The Agoge begins not with weapons but with survival. The first years are about stripping away everything that is not necessary. The comfortable life of a family home, the regular meals, the warmth of a bed, the presence of parents who will intervene when things become difficult. In the Agoge, none of these things exist. You sleep on beds of reeds that you cut yourself from the river, with no mattress and no blanket, even in winter. You were given barely enough food to survive, and the expectation, the explicit expectation, acknowledged and managed by the men who run the system, is that you will steal the rest. Not because Sparta endorses theft, but because learning to steal without being caught teaches the skills that matter in war. Stealth, patience, the ability to observe and wait and act at precisely the right moment. Boys who are caught stealing are punished, not for stealing but for being caught. The cold is part of it too. Spartan boys go without shoes for most of the year, even in winter. The logic is straightforward. Feet that are used to cold and rough ground are more useful in the field than feet that have been protected and coddled. Pain that is experienced young and often becomes manageable. The body that knows it can survive discomfort is more reliable than the body that has never been tested. You remember your feet in those first winters. The cracked skin, the numbness that was almost worse than the pain because it came with a kind of deadness that felt wrong in a way that pain did not. You remember learning to walk on frozen ground without showing that it hurt, because showing that it hurt was the thing you could not do. Not because the instructors would punish you, though they might, but because the other boys would see. And in the Agoge, the boys are always watching. The older boys supervise the younger ones. They set the standards, enforce the rules, punish infractions with a directness that no adult overseer could provide. The system is self-sustaining, the values transmitted not from instructors to students but from older students to younger ones. An unbroken chain of expectation and example that goes back generations. You were 12 when you first understood what the Agoge was really teaching. Not fighting, not endurance, not the physical skills that are the visible surface of the training. What it was teaching was something harder to name and more important, a particular relationship to your own discomfort, the ability to observe what your body is telling you. I am cold, I am hungry, I am afraid. And to set that information aside, not to deny it, not to pretend it isn't there, but to note it as you might note the weather, and continue. This is what makes a Spartan, not the strength or the skill or the endurance, though all of these matter. The thing that separates a Spartan warrior from a good soldier of any other Greek city is this: the Spartan has been trained for 13 years to act correctly in the presence of fear, not to be fearless. There are no fearless men in the world, but to be something harder and more useful, a man who feels fear as clearly as any other man and acts well anyway. You lie on the ground at Thermopylae and you feel the earth beneath you hard and real, and you remember being 12 years old and understanding this for the first time, and something in you that is not quite pride but is related to it settles into place and is still. The man breathing slowly to your left has a name that means nothing outside Sparta. Inside Sparta, it means everything. You have known him since before the Agoge. His family's house was 2 streets from yours, and you played together as children in the way that the children of Spartan citizens play, roughly, competitively, with the particular intensity of boys who have already absorbed, without understanding it yet, the world's expectations of them. He was better at running than you were better at wrestling. Neither of you would have admitted this. In the Agoge, you were placed in different units. This was intentional. The system separates friends and brothers, distributes the bonds of family across the broader unit of the state, so that the loyalty you feel is not to one person but to all of them, to the phalanx, to Sparta itself. You saw him across the training ground and nodded and went back to your own unit's work, and this was correct and you understood it. But after the Agoge, after you both graduated into full citizenship at 20, after the years of training became years of service, you ended up in the same Anomatea, the smallest tactical unit of the Spartan army. 40 men who train together, eat together, sleep in the same barracks and fight side by side in the phalanx. For 10 years of daily proximity produces a knowledge of another person that has no equivalent in ordinary life. You know his fighting style the way you know your own. You know when he is tired before he shows it. You know the sound of his breathing in a night camp. And you know the difference between the breathing that means he is sleeping and the breathing that means he is lying awake thinking about something he will not say. Tonight he is sleeping. You are glad. There is a Spartan custom, not a rule, not a law, but a custom so deeply embedded in the culture that it functions as both, that warriors do not discuss fear before a battle, not because the fear is shameful, but because discussing it serves no purpose. The battle will be what it will be. The fear will be managed or it will not. Talking about it changes nothing except to spread it, and spreading it serves no one. So you lie in the dark and you do not talk, but you are aware of him, of his presence 2 feet away, in the dark. The particular comfort of knowing exactly where he is, of having fought beside him so many times that your bodies have developed a kind of spatial awareness of each other that operates below the level of thought. In the phalanx tomorrow, he will be to your left. His shield will overlap yours by a hand's width. When the line advances, his left foot will move in time with your right, the rhythm of the phalanx as familiar as breathing. You have done this hundreds of times in training. Tomorrow you will do it when it matters. You think about the other men around you, the 40 of your Insomnia, the 300 of the full Spartan force, the names and faces and fighting styles that you carry in your memory, the way you carry knowledge of the terrain, as tools, as resources, as the substance of what you are part of. Sparta does not send its warriors alone into battle. It sends the phalanx. It sends the sum of 10,000 hours of shared training and 10 years of shared living, and the particular trust that comes from knowing, without needing to think about it, that the man to your left will hold his ground, as you will hold yours, as all of you will hold yours. That is the agreement. That is the thing that makes 300 men in a narrow pass into something that a Persian army cannot simply walk through. Not courage exactly, or not only courage, trust. Sparta is 4 days' march south of here. You have not seen it in 3 weeks, and you will not see it again. This is the thought that you do not think directly, but that exists in the background of everything, a presence rather than a thought, the way the smell of the sea exists in the background of the camp tonight, without being the thing you are focused on. The city sits in the valley of the Eurotas River, between the mountains of Taygetos to the west and Parnon to the east. It is not grand by the standards of other Greek cities. There are no great temples to match those of Athens, no city walls. The Spartans have never needed city walls, because for 3 centuries no enemy has come close enough to require them. What you have instead is the Agoge, and the army it produces, which is a better wall than any stone. The city is modest, low buildings, functional, without the decoration that wealthier cities apply to their architecture. The gymnasium where the men train, the Syssitia, the dining halls where Spartan citizens eat together, bringing their monthly contribution of food and eating collectively rather than in private homes, because eating together is part of what makes you what you are. The temple of Athena, the sanctuary of Artemis Orthia, where the endurance rituals are performed, and the houses. Your house is on a street near the eastern edge of the city, backing onto an orchard of olive trees that produces oil of a quality you have always quietly considered among the best in the valley, though you have never said so because saying so would be the kind of thing a Spartan does not say. You left it 3 weeks ago in the early morning, before the heat. Your wife was awake. She had been awake since before you rose, though she said nothing about this and showed no evidence of it, because this is what Spartan wives are, capable, composed, trained from their own girlhood to manage the household and the estate and the helots who work it, and to send their husbands to war with the same composure their husbands go with. She handed you your shield. It is the red shield of a Spartan warrior, the lambda on its face, the letter L for lace diamond, Sparta's full name, painted by her hand in the months before this campaign, the red bright and new against the bronze boss at its centre. She had painted it carefully over several evenings, sitting in the light of the courtyard while you watched without commenting, because commenting would have been unnecessary and because watching was enough. She said nothing when she handed it to you. You said nothing either. You put on the shield. You picked up your spear. You walked out of the courtyard and down the street and toward the mustering point where the other warriors were gathering. And you did not look back, because looking back is not something a Spartan does when leaving for war. But you knew she was watching. You always know. Spartan women are unlike the women of any other Greek city. This is something that visitors to Sparta always remark on, usually with a mixture of admiration and unease. In Athens and Corinth and the other cities of Greece, women live largely indoors, manage the domestic sphere, and participate in public life only in specific religious contexts. They are educated modestly, if at all. Their world is the household. In Sparta, women run. From girlhood, Spartan females participate in physical training, running, wrestling, throwing the javelin and discus. Not because Sparta expects women to fight, though there are stories of Spartan women defending the city in the absence of the men, and you have never doubted those stories. But because Sparta understands something that other cities do not, the strength of the mother determines the strength of the child. A healthy, strong, physically capable woman produces healthier, stronger children, and Sparta's most important resource, its only truly important resource, the thing the entire civilization is organized around producing and maintaining, is the warrior. So the girls train. They are also educated differently. Where Athenian girls are taught to be quiet and modest and to defer to male authority in all things, Spartan girls are taught to speak plainly, to manage estates, to make decisions. When the men are away, and the men are often away, either training or campaigning, the women run Sparta. They manage the farms and the helots who work them, handle the financial affairs of households, participate in public life in ways that would be considered scandalous in Athens. Your wife managed the estate during the 2 years you spent on campaign in the north. She did it better than you would have. You know this, and she knows you know it, and neither of you has ever found it necessary to say so. This is one of the things you appreciate about Spartan marriage. The absence of pretense. You are a warrior. She is the person who keeps everything functioning while you are being a warrior. Both roles are necessary. Neither is more important than the other, though the city will celebrate one and barely notice the other. And this asymmetry is one of the few things about Sparta that you have ever privately thought was not quite right. She told you before you left that she had planted new fig trees in the orchard. A completely practical piece of information. New fig trees take years to bear fruit. She was telling you in the Spartan way of telling things, sideways, through facts rather than feelings. that she expected the estate to be functioning and requiring management for years to come, that she was planning for a future, that she expected you to come back, or that she was acting as if she did. You cannot always tell the difference with her, and this is one of the things you love most about her. You stare at the stars and you think about fig trees, of all things, about the orchard in the early morning, the light coming over the eastern mountains, the smell of the trees, the particular quality of the silence there that is different from every other silence you have encountered, including this one. That silence is yours. This silence belongs to Thermopylae. You have seen the Persian army. 2 days ago, before taking your position at the pass, you rode east with a small scouting party to observe the approach. What you saw was not like anything you had seen before, and you have been in battles, and you are not a man who is easily impressed by numbers. The Persians come from a world that is simply larger than the Greek world. Their empire stretches from the Aegean coast to the borders of India, from the steppes north of the Black Sea to the deserts of Egypt. It contains dozens of people speaking dozens of languages, organized under the absolute authority of a king who is worshipped as a god and whose armies are assembled from the entire scope of his domains. What you saw on the coastal plain east of the pass was an army that moved like a migration. The dust of it was visible from 20 kilometers away, a column of brown haze rising into the still summer air. The sound of it, the footsteps and the hoofbeats and the creak of equipment and the voices of thousands of men reached you before you could see the men themselves. And then you saw them. The infantry in their coloured robes and wicker shields, nothing like your bronze panoply but enormously numerous. The cavalry on horses that make your horses look modest. The contingents from every corner of the empire, Medes and Persians, Lydians, Egyptians, Bactrians, Indians, people from places so far away that you have no clear picture of the lands they come from, all of them moving westward toward the pass, toward you. You observed for the time required. You noted what was tactically relevant. You turned your horse and rode back to the camp. You did not mention what you had seen to anyone because there was nothing useful to say about it. The pass is the pass. The phalanx is the phalanx. The numbers on the other side of the wall are what they are. Leonidas knows the numbers. He knew them before you arrived here. He came anyway. The king was sitting by a fire when you returned from the scouting. Leonidas, you have known him for most of your life. He is of an age with the older warriors in the force, a man in his mid-40s, grey at his temples, with the particular quality of stillness that long experience of command produces in some men. Not all men. Some men become louder and more certain as their experience increases. Leonidas became quieter. He is not a complicated man, in the way that some great men are complicated, full of contradictions and hidden depths, and the kind of interior life that produces brilliant speeches and terrible decisions in equal measure. He is straightforward. His values are Spartan values, applied consistently over a lifetime. Duty, courage, the subordination of personal interest to the good of the city, the acceptance of what cannot be changed with a composure that is not indifference but something harder and more considered than indifference. He chose to come to Thermopylae knowing what the oracle had said. The oracle at Delphi, consulted before the campaign, gave two prophecies. Either Sparta would be conquered by Persia, or a Spartan king would die. He understood what this meant. You all understood. He brought 300 men, 300, from a city that could field thousands. The number is not accident or constraint, it is choice. He chose 300 men who all have living sons, so that their lines will continue after them. 300 men who have already given Sparta what it most needs from them, heirs, and can therefore give it something else. Their deaths, if that is what is required, but not yet. Tonight, Leonidas is sitting by a fire near the center of the camp, speaking quietly with two of his advisors. You passed close enough to hear a fragment of the conversation. Something about the position of the Allied forces on the left flank. Something about the timing of shifts at the wall. Practical military matters, calmly discussed, under a sky that is full of stars. He looked up as you passed and nodded. Just that, a nod. The kind that acknowledges and dismisses simultaneously. That says, I see you, you are where you should be, continue. You continued. But you think about it now, lying in the dark, about what it means to lead men to a place like this, knowing what you know, choosing it anyway, about the particular quality of courage that is not the courage of a man who doesn't understand the danger. Leonidas understands it better than anyone, but the courage of a man who understands it completely and acts anyway. Sparta will know when the news reaches the city. Greece will know whether or not the pass is held, whether or not the Persian army is stopped here or somewhere else, whether or not the larger war goes one way or another. What happened at Thermopylae will be known. A Spartan king and 300 warriors held a pass against an empire for as long as they could, for as long as was needed. The Spartans have a word, kalos thanatos, beautiful death. It does not mean dying in a way that looks impressive. It does not mean dying heroically in the theatrical sense, the way that stories tell it, with last words and meaningful gestures, and the faces of loved ones swimming before your eyes. It means dying at the right moment, for the right reason, in the right way. Dying in a manner that is consistent with how you lived. Dying without shame, without retreat, without the betrayal of everything the Agoge spent 13 years teaching you to be. You have thought about this before. Not obsessively dwelling on death is not a Spartan quality, but honestly, in the way that any soldier who has been in battle thinks about it, in the quiet moments between the work of fighting and the work of recovering from fighting. Death is not the worst thing. The worst thing is to act in a way that requires you to be something other than what you are. To step back when you should hold, to save yourself at the cost of the man beside you, to return to Sparta carrying a shield you should have died on. Your mother's words the morning you left for the Agoge, come back with your shield or on it. Not a threat, not cruelty. A statement of values so complete and so Spartan that it requires no elaboration. The shield is the phalanx. The phalanx is Sparta. If you come back without it, you have abandoned both. You will not come back without it. This is not bravery exactly. It is something more like clarity. The Agoge gives you many things, but the most important one is this. It removes ambiguity. You know what you are. You know what is required of you. The uncertainty that torments men who have not been through it, the question of who they really are under pressure, what they will really do when it matters, that uncertainty does not exist for you. You were tested many times in ways that were designed to find the limit of what you could endure and to push past it so that the limit moved. What you found on the other side of those tests was not certainty about the future, no one can have that, but certainty about yourself. You know what you will do tomorrow. You will stand in the line. You will hold your ground. You will do your job. Whatever happens after that is what happens. You breathe slowly in the cool night air, and the stars are enormous overhead, and the sea moves softly to your right, and the Persian fires glow on the other side of the pass, and somewhere a night bird calls once and is silent. The night is very beautiful. You notice this without sentimentality. Beauty is a fact, like the hardness of the ground or the temperature of the air. You are lying on the ground at Thermopylae on the last quiet night of your life, possibly, and the night is beautiful, and you are aware of this, and that is enough. The day you completed the Agoge, there was no ceremony. This is the Spartan way. Other cities mark transitions with festivals and speeches and the public acknowledgement of achievement. Sparta marks them with silence and the continuation of work. You finished your final year of training. You were evaluated by the ephors, the 5 magistrates who oversee the Agoge and the city's affairs, and you were told quietly by the man who had been your unit commander for the last 3 years that you were now a Spartan citizen. That was all. You were 20 years old. The citizenship meant specific things. You were now a member of the Sycetia, the dining mess that you would eat with every day for the rest of your life, contributing your monthly portion of food and eating collectively with the same men you had trained with. You were now eligible to vote in the assembly, to own land, to marry. You were now, in the eyes of Sparta and the law, a man. But the training did not stop. For Spartan warriors, training never stops. The Agoge is preparation for a life of service, not the service itself. From 20 to 30 you live in the barracks, training and drilling and participating in the military life of the city, even if you have married, and most Spartans marry in their 20s, visiting their wives at night and returning to barracks before dawn, because the separation of the warrior from the domestic world is considered important for the first decade of full service. Your first battle came 18 months after your graduation, a dispute with a neighbouring city, one of the periodic conflicts that occupy Sparta's military attention in the years when no larger threat presents itself. A straightforward engagement tactically, a set-piece battle on open ground where the Spartan phalanx did what Spartan phalanxes do. You remember the sound of it more than anything else. The sound of 2 phalanxes meeting is not like anything you could have prepared for, even after 13 years of training. the noise of 10,000 shields striking simultaneously, the crack and grind of bronze on bronze, the shouts of men pushing and being pushed, the particular percussion of spear shafts breaking, and the different sound of spear points finding gaps in armor, all of it arriving at once, a wall of sound as physical as the wall of shields. And then your training took over. This is what the Agoge prepares you for, not the tactics which your commanders manage, not the strategy which Leonidas and the other senior officers determine, but the moment when the noise and the chaos and the smell of blood and the fear that arrives without warning in your chest, the moment when all of that arrives simultaneously, and your body must do what it has been trained to do, regardless of what your mind is experiencing. Hold the line, protect the man to your right with your shield, push forward when the line moves forward. You did these things, your body did them before your mind caught up, the way the body always acts faster than the mind in situations it has been sufficiently trained for. Afterward, sitting on the ground at the edge of the field, while the work of clearing the dead and treating the wounded began around you, you felt something settle inside you that had not been settled before. Not pride exactly, something quieter than pride. The knowledge that you were what the Agoge had been trying to make you, that the 13 years had worked, that under the full pressure of actual battle, your body had done its job. You were a Spartan warrior, not a boy who had completed training, not a citizen who had passed his evaluations, a warrior confirmed by the thing that only battle can confirm, in possession of the knowledge that only experience can provide. You have fought in 4 battles since that first one. Tomorrow will be the 5th. You feel the same settling that you felt sitting on that field 18 months after graduation. The same quiet knowledge, the same body, older now, more experienced, carrying more of what battle teaches you about yourself and about the world, ready. This evening, before the light failed, you performed the rituals. Every Spartan warrior performs them before battle, not because the gods require specific performances. The gods, as the Spartans understand them, are not interested in elaborate ceremony, but because the rituals are a technology. They are a way of moving the mind from one state to another, of marking the transition between ordinary time and the time that is coming, of preparing the body and the spirit for what will be asked of them. You sharpened your spear. This took longer than it needed to, technically speaking. Your spear is already sharp. You maintain your equipment with the care that the Agoge instilled in you, and there is nothing dull about the point or the blade. But the sharpening is not about the spear. It is about the attention. The 20 minutes you spend drawing the stone along the edge of the blade, checking the point, checking again, is 20 minutes during which your mind is focused on something specific and practical, and the part of your mind that would otherwise spend that time on anticipation and anxiety has been given a task. The task is the sharpening. The sharpening gets done. The mind is quieter afterward. You also checked your shield. The leather grip, worn to the shape of your arm over years of use, still firm. The bronze facing, dented in a few places from previous engagements but structurally intact. The lambda, painted red on the face, slightly worn at the edges now, but still legible, still the mark of what you are and where you come from. You checked the rim where the bronze meets the wood, looking for any looseness that might cause problems tomorrow. There was none. You will carry this shield tomorrow. You have carried it for 10 years, through 4 battles and more training engagements than you could count. It knows your body the way any tool knows the hand that has used it long enough. The slight forward tilt that you favour when advancing, the particular angle at which you hold it when pushing in a scrum. These things are not conscious decisions. They are habits, accumulated over years, the shield and the body developing a relationship that makes them function as one thing rather than two. Before the evening meal, you made an offering at the small altar of Ares that the army carries with it on campaign. Not an elaborate offering, a few drops of wine poured carefully, and a short prayer that is more acknowledgement than petition. The gods do not grant requests, the Spartans believe, simply because they are asked. They respond to how you live, not to what you say. The offering is not a transaction, it is a recognition. This is the domain of the god of war, and you are entering it, and it is appropriate to acknowledge that. You are not a particularly religious man, in the sense that some men are, the men who see signs everywhere, who consult oracles frequently, who believe that the gods have specific intentions for specific individuals. You believe the gods exist and that they notice the broad patterns of human behavior more than the details of individual lives. But you make the offering anyway, because it is correct to do so. Because the custom, the way of doing things that has been handed down through generations, says this is what you do before battle. And the Moss is not merely tradition, it is compressed wisdom, the accumulated knowledge of every Spartan who has ever gone to war, distilled into practice. The men who established these rituals knew something about what warriors need. After the offering, you ate. The meal was simple: black broth, the Spartan staple that visitors to Sparta always find unpleasant, and Spartans find perfectly adequate. With bread and a small portion of dried meat, you ate it in silence, sitting with the men of your Insomnia, the fire between you, the sounds of the larger camp around you. No one spoke much. This is another ritual, though it is never described as one. The particular quality of silence that settles over a group of experienced soldiers before a major engagement. Not the silence of men who have nothing to say, but the silence of men who have said everything that needs to be said, who are now engaged in the internal work of preparation that words would interrupt. You ate, you cleaned your bowl, you checked your equipment one more time, and then you lay down on the ground and looked at the stars and let the night do what the night does. Slow things down, stretch time out, give the mind room to settle into whatever state it needs to be in for what comes next. The night is doing that now. The stars are very bright. The ground is hard beneath you, real and present, the actual earth of Greece. And you are ready. The stars over Greece in August are extraordinary. No city lights anywhere in the ancient world are bright enough to dim them. No smoke from any fire human beings have ever built can reach high enough to obscure them. They are simply there, the way they have always been, the way they will always be. The same stars that your father watched and his father before him, and every Spartan who has ever lain on the ground before a battle and looked up and found, in that enormous indifferent display of light, something that functions like reassurance, not that you will survive. The stars make no promises whether the universe is large, that what happens tomorrow in a narrow pass in central Greece, however significant it is to the people involved in it, is a small event on the scale of things, that the stars were burning before Sparta existed and will burn after Sparta is gone, and that this is not a frightening thought but a relieving one. You are part of something larger than yourself. You have always been part of something larger than yourself. The Agoge taught you this before you were 10 years old, dismantled the self-concern that is the natural condition of a child, and replaced it with something broader. The unit, the phalanx, the city, Greece. Tomorrow, at the pass, you will be part of something that is larger even than Sparta. You will be 300 men standing between an empire and the world that the empire wants to consume. Not because you are certain you can stop it, but because someone has to stand there, and Sparta is the city that produces men who can. The stars turn slowly overhead, the fire beside you crumbles into embers, the last of its warmth rising into the cool night air. The man to your left breathes slowly, deeply, completely asleep. You feel the ground beneath you, hard and real and present, the actual earth of Greece, the soil that your ancestors walked and farmed and defended and are buried in, the ground that connects you to everything that came before you and everything that will come after. You close your eyes. The stars are still there, behind your eyelids, imprinted by the hours of watching them. The sea moves, the night breathes. The Persian fires glow on the other side of the darkness. Tomorrow will come when it comes. Tonight is yours. Sleep now, warrior. You have earned it.